In a luxurious house, a stepmother tears the locket from a child's neck and says she deserves nothing. Behind the spotless walls, a cruel cycle of humiliation, control, and silence begins. But an assistant decides to act, recording every detail with evidence, reports, and courage. What was once invisible turns into a denunciation, and the protection of a childhood begins with a hidden click. On the triplex penthouse of the most exclusive building in Oceanfront Gardens in Northwood, Miami, Florida, a child's scream pierced the quiet of the sunny morning. "Please, Aunt Lucy, give it back." It was Mom's. Sophia Miller, just 7 years old, tried to reach a golden locket that Lucy Peterson, her stepmother, held above her head with a malicious smile on her perfectly made-up lips. The woman, Gregory Miller's wife for only 8 months, dangled the piece of jewelry as if it were a toy. This kind of cheap trinket doesn't suit the daughter of one of the country's biggest businessmen. "Darling," Lucy said, her sweet voice contrasting with her cold gaze, "you need to learn to behave like a real Miller, not like the daughter of an employee who won over your father." Sophia held back her tears. The locket, with a photo of her mother, Clara, was her most precious memory since she had passed away after a severe illness 2 years ago. Clara had been Gregory's executive secretary before they became a couple, a fact that his current wife never failed to mention with disdain. "Mrs. Clara gave it to me before she—" Sophia hesitated, words caught in her throat. "Before she left us forever," Lucy completed with false compassion. "Well, now I'm your mother, and I say you don't deserve any of this." With a sudden movement, Lucy snatched the chain from the small fist that was still trying to hold it. Unbeknownst to her, she was captured by the discreet security cameras installed in the common areas of the penthouse, equipment that Gregory had implemented but rarely monitored due to his overloaded schedule. "Aunt Lucy, please," Sophia pleaded, finally letting the tears flow. "It's Mommy Lucy to you." "And stop crying. Millers don't cry in public." The argument was interrupted by the arrival of Cecilia Hayes, the governess hired 15 years ago by the Miller family. A woman in her early 50s, with grey hair always tied back in a discreet bun. Cecilia had been a fundamental part of Sophia's upbringing since she was a baby. "Good morning." "To Mrs. Peterson, good morning, Princess Sophia," Cecilia greeted, immediately noticing the girl's red eyes. "Is everything all right here?" "Perfectly," Lucy replied, quickly tucking the locket into the pocket of her imported tailored trousers. Sophia was having a tantrum. You know how dramatic children can be. Cecilia observed the scene carefully. In recent months, since Lucy had moved into the penthouse after her whirlwind marriage to Gregory, Sophia's behavior had drastically changed. The girl, once cheerful and communicative, now barely spoke, had visibly lost weight, and her colorful drawings had given way to dark and somber strokes. "Sophia, how about your breakfast?" "I made those pancakes with guava syrup that you love," Cecilia suggested, extending her hand to the child. Before Sophia could answer, Lucy intervened. "She's already had her breakfast. A glass of skim milk and a whole wheat toast. We need to control her diet, Cecilia. I don't want my stepdaughter to develop weight problems." Sophia, who had always been a child of appropriate weight, looked at the floor. Her stomach rumbled audibly enough for Cecilia to hear. "With all due respect, Mrs. Peterson, the pancakes are part of the nutritional routine that Dr. Morris, the family nutritionist, established for Sophia. Now I'm the one who decides the routine of this house." "Cecilia," Lucy retorted, her polite smile giving way to a harsh expression. "Or have you forgotten who Mrs. Miller is now?" Before the situation escalated, the intercom rang. It was Gregory announcing that he would arrive in an hour to have lunch with the family, something rare in his frantic routine as CEO of Miller Developments, one of the country's largest construction companies. "My love," Lucy exclaimed on the phone, her voice turning to honey. "What a wonderful surprise. We're waiting for you for lunch. Sophia is eager to see Daddy, aren't you, darling?" Hanging up, she turned to Cecilia with an icy glare. "Prepare Gregory's favorite lunch. And as for you, Sophia, go get ready. I want you impeccable when your father arrives. No whining or complaining, understood? Smile and show how happy we are." Sophia nodded mechanically and walked towards her room, recently redecorated by Lucy in shades of pink and white that the girl detested. The cozy ocean-themed room her mother had created no longer existed. Cecilia watched the child, noticing her slumped shoulders and hesitant steps. When Lucy left the room towards the master suite, the governess approached Sophia. "Princess, are you really not hungry?" Sophia looked around, making sure they were alone, and whispered, "I'm very hungry, Cece, but Aunt Lucy said I'll get fat and ugly if I eat too much." Cecilia felt a knot in her throat. "Come with me to the kitchen, quickly. No one will know." In the kitchen, while Sophia devoured a pancake, Cecilia noticed how her hands trembled. The governess observed more closely. Deep, dark circles under her eyes, hair that was once shiny, now lifeless, and the girl's constant vigilance, startling at every sound and looking towards the door. "Sophia, dear, is everything all right between you and Mrs. Peterson when you're alone?" The girl froze, the fork halfway to her mouth. "I can't talk about it, Cece. It's a family secret." The sound of approaching heels made Sophia quickly swallow the last piece of pancake. Lucy entered the kitchen, now dressed in an elegant red dress. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm as she saw the plate with pancake remnants. "I insisted that Sophia eat something more substantial." "Mrs. Peterson," Cecilia replied, subtly positioning herself between the stepmother and the child. Growing children need proper nutrition. Lucy narrowed her eyes, her mask of gentleness completely abandoned. "You are overstepping your boundaries, Cecilia. Taking care of Sophia is my obligation now, not yours. Your job is to keep this house running, not to question my family decisions." "With all due respect, I've worked for Mr. Miller longer than you've been in this house," Cecilia replied firmly. "And my concern is for Sophia's well-being." "Well, maybe it's time we discussed your duties with Gregory," Lucy threatened. "I'm sure he'll value my opinion on how our home is run." The sound of the private elevator announced the arrival of Gregory Miller. Tall, with graying temples that gave him a mature charm at 42, he entered smiling, although his eyes showed the fatigue of someone living between meetings and business trips. "Daddy," Sophia exclaimed, running to hug him. "My little princess." Gregory lifted her into his arms. "How's the most important girl in my life?" "She's great, darling," Lucy interrupted, approaching to kiss him. "We just had a wonderful morning together, didn't we, Sophia?" Sophia hesitated, glancing briefly at Cecilia, who remained silent. "Yes, Daddy," the child murmured. Unable to look her father in the eye, Gregory frowned slightly, noticing something different in his daughter, but was soon distracted by Lucy, who intertwined her arm with his, guiding him to the living room. "Let's have lunch, dear. You need to tell us all about the meeting with the New York City investors. And then, how about we spend the afternoon together like a real family?" As the couple walked away, Cecilia exchanged a last look with Sophia. The governess made a decision at that moment. Something had to be done. That child was suffering right under her own father's roof, and she would not stand idly by. 3 weeks passed since the locket incident, and the situation in the Miller penthouse only deteriorated. Cecilia watched with growing concern Sophia's physical and emotional state. The girl, once vibrant and chatty, now moved like a small ghost through the luxurious corridors, always attentive to Lucy's footsteps. During Sunday breakfast, Gregory, exceptionally at home, distractedly flipped through the business section of the newspaper, while Sophia uninterestingly poked at a piece of fruit. "Sophia, eat properly," Lucy reprimanded with a forced smile. "Your father is home today, let's show our good manners." "Sorry," the girl murmured, putting a small piece of papaya in her mouth. Gregory lowered the newspaper and observed his daughter. "Princess, you're very thin. Don't you have an appetite?" Before Sophia could answer, Lucy intervened. "It's just a phase, darling. I spoke with her pediatrician by phone. Dr. Anna Bennett said it's normal for children to go through such periods." Cecilia, who was serving coffee, frowned. Sophia hadn't visited Dr. Anna Bennett in months, and the last appointment had been cancelled by Lucy, citing scheduling conflicts. "Actually, Mr. Miller," Cecilia began carefully, "I think it would be good to schedule an in-person appointment with Dr. Anna Bennett. Sophia hasn't been sleeping well and—" "Cecilia," Lucy cut in, "don't interfere in family matters. Please." Gregory, bothered by the tension, checked his watch. "I have a video conference in half an hour with Chinese investors. But I promise we'll spend some time together afterwards, Princess, okay?" he said, kissing the top of Sophia's head before retreating to the office. As soon as Gregory left, Lucy's demeanor transformed. "Are you trying to discredit me in front of my husband, Cecilia?" "Mrs. Peterson, I'm just worried about Sophia. She's lost weight, isn't sleeping properly, she's always scared." "Nonsense. You're seeing problems where none exist, because you don't accept my presence in this house. Sophia is doing great under my care." At that moment, Lucy's cell phone rang. It was her friend Deborah, calling for a last-minute brunch at the Emerald Hills Country Club. After hanging up, Lucy adjusted her Chanel dress and picked up her Hermès bag. "I'm going out. Sophia will stay in her room, studying English. She shouldn't eat anything but fruit until dinner, understood? It's a punishment for her lack of appetite at breakfast." When Lucy left, Cecilia approached Sophia, who kept her eyes fixed on the plate. "Sophia, dear, can we talk?" The girl looked up cautiously. "Aunt Lucy doesn't like me to talk when she's not here. But she's not here now, and I'm worried about you. What happens when you're alone?" Sophia hesitated, nervously playing with the hem of her t-shirt. "Aunt Lucy says I'm a burden to Daddy, that he married her because he regretted marrying my mom, who was just an employee who tricked him." Cecilia's eyes widened. "Sophia, that's not true. Your father loved your mother very much. Aunt Lucy also hides my food. Says I'm fat and fat girls aren't loved." Sophia took a deep breath. "And she puts me in the dark closet when I do something wrong." "In the dark closet? For how long?" "I don't know. Sometimes it feels like a long time. Until I promise I'll be a better girl." Sophia shrugged. "Don't tell Daddy, Cece. Aunt Lucy said if I tell, he'll send me to a boarding school far away because he'll realize I'm a problem." Cecilia felt indignation seething in her chest. She knelt beside Sophia's chair and held her small hands. "Sophia, listen to me. You are not a problem. You are a wonderful child, and your father would never ever send you away. But Daddy always believes Aunt Lucy. He says she only wants what's best for me." At that moment, Cecilia made a decision. She needed to document what was happening and get concrete proof to present to Gregory. He was a fair man, but blindly in love with Lucy and overwhelmed by work. The following Monday, during her day off, Cecilia sought out Roger Collins, a lawyer who had helped her family years ago. In his small office downtown Miami, she explained the situation. "What you describe are clear signs of psychological abuse and neglect," Roger stated, after listening carefully. "But accusing the wife of a powerful man like Gregory Miller without solid proof can backfire on you. Then tell me how to get that proof." "First, documentation. Record everything. Dates, times, incidents, changes in the child's behavior. Second, physical evidence. Photos of discarded food, changes in weight, any physical marks if present. Third, professional testimonies, doctors, teachers, anyone who has regular contact with Sophia." "What about recordings?" "The penthouse has cameras, but Gregory rarely checks them." "Legally complex, but when it comes to protecting a child," Roger pondered. "Cameras in common areas are the father's property, so there's no expectation of privacy. Could you install additional micro-cameras? Discreetly, only in common areas. I have a nephew who works with electronic security." "Perfect. Motion-activated micro-cameras, with cloud upload to prevent anyone from deleting the evidence." In the following days, Cecilia implemented the plan. With the discreet help of her nephew Raphael, she installed small cameras in strategic points of the penthouse: living room, kitchen, main hallway, all common spaces where there was no expectation of privacy. In parallel, she began meticulously documenting each incident. She noticed that Lucy frequently threw away meals prepared for Sophia when no one was looking. She recorded the times the girl was sent to her room without dinner, often for trivial infractions such as spilling water or taking too long to answer a question. A week later, Cecilia managed to schedule an appointment with Dr. Anna Bennett, telling Lucy it was just a routine checkup. At the appointment, without the stepmother present, the pediatrician was alarmed by the changes in Sophia's health. "She's lost almost 6 pounds since her last visit, showing clear signs of chronic stress and anxiety," the doctor observed, examining the child. "Sophia, have you been eating well?" The girl looked at Cecilia before answering. "Sometimes I'm not allowed to have dinner," she replied softly. Dr. Anna Bennett frowned and asked a few more careful questions. After the examination, she called Cecilia for a private conversation. "As a doctor, I have a legal obligation to report suspicions of child abuse," she explained. What I see are worrying signs of nutritional neglect and psychological trauma. Doctor, we are collecting evidence to present to her father. He is a good man, but he has been completely swayed by his current wife, Cecilia explained. If you could officially document these observations, I will prepare a detailed report, and I want to see Sophia again in a week. If the situation continues or worsens, I will have to notify Child Protective Services. That same week, Cecilia contacted Sophia's art teacher, Julian Matthews, who gave private lessons at the residence. She showed him some of Sophia's recent drawings, predominantly in dark tones, with somber figures and a recurring image of a child alone in a small, dark space. There's been a drastic change in the chromatic and thematic pattern, Julian confirmed. In the first months after her mother's passing, Sophia used vibrant colors, drawings of sky, sea, her family. Now there's a predominance of isolated figures, confined spaces, dark tones. These are classic indicators of emotional trauma. Cecilia also discreetly spoke with Teresa, the cook, who confirmed Lucy's contradictory instructions regarding Sophia's diet and the frequent disposal of nutritious meals prepared for the child. Mrs. Peterson tells me to prepare elaborate dishes when Mr. Miller is home, but throws the food away when he leaves. I've seen her putting Sophia's dinner in the trash and saying the girl refused to eat, Teresa revealed. Meanwhile, the micro-cameras began to capture disturbing evidence. One night, with Gregory traveling to New York City, Lucy was filmed yelling at Sophia for leaving a book in the living room. "Disobedient children don't deserve toys," she declared, confiscating Sophia's favorite doll. "Nor memories of worthless mothers." The camera caught Lucy taking the locket with Clara's photo from a cabinet and putting it in a safe in her personal closet. On another occasion, Sophia was filmed being forced to stand for almost 2 hours for taking too long to finish her homework, until her legs gave out. The images showed Lucy ignoring the girl's silent crying while talking on the phone with friends, laughing and planning a trip to Paris. The most disturbing incident occurred on a Thursday night. After Sophia accidentally spilled a glass of water on the imported rug, the cameras recorded Lucy dragging the child by the arm to the large closet near the utility area, pushing her inside and locking the door. "You stay there until you learn to behave like a Miller." Sophia was locked in the dark closet for almost 3 hours, while Lucy calmly watched a reality show in the living room, a glass of wine in her hand. At the end of 2 weeks, Cecilia had compiled a damning dossier. Records of weight loss documented by the pediatrician, analyses of the drawings by Professor Julian, testimonies from employees, and, most importantly, dozens of videos showing the cruel treatment Sophia received away from her father's eyes. "It's time to show this to Mr. Miller," Cecilia decided, carefully storing the evidence on an encrypted USB drive, as advised by Roger. "No matter what happens to me afterwards, this child cannot continue to suffer like this." The lawyer, reviewing the material, made a final observation. "Prepare for retaliation, Cecilia. People like Lucy don't usually accept being exposed without a fight. And powerful people like Gregory Miller sometimes prefer to deny the obvious rather than face the painful truth." Cecilia nodded, determined. "For Sophia, I'm willing to take that risk. Mr. Miller, we need to talk about Sophia." Cecilia stood at the door of her employer's office, who had arrived home early that Friday. Gregory looked up from the documents he was analyzing and smiled tiredly. "Any problem, Cecilia? I hope she's not giving you and Lucy trouble." "Actually, sir, it's about the relationship between Sophia and Mrs. Peterson when you are not present." Gregory's expression subtly changed, a shadow of irritation passing through his eyes. "Look, Cecilia, I know you're very attached to Sophia since Clara left us, but you need to understand that Lucy is my wife now and has authority over my daughter's upbringing. Mr. Miller, with all due respect, this is not about attachment or jealousy. I have observed worrying behaviors." Cecilia took a deep breath. "Sophia has lost significant weight, is anxious, isn't sleeping well, and her drawings show clear signs of emotional distress." Gregory shifted in his chair, clearly uncomfortable. "Children go through phases, Cecilia. Sophia is still adapting to the loss of her mother and the new family dynamic. Lucy assures me everything is under control." "Sir, I have evidence that suggests otherwise." At that moment, the sound of approaching heels interrupted the conversation. Lucy appeared at the door, radiant in an emerald green outfit, her dark hair impeccably styled. "Darling, you're home already. What a wonderful surprise," she exclaimed, kissing her husband and casting an icy glance at Cecilia. "Was I interrupting something?" Cecilia was telling me about some concerns with Sophia. "Oh?" Lucy arched a perfectly defined eyebrow. "What kind of concerns?" Cecilia stood firm. "The same ones I mentioned to you in recent weeks. Sophia is not well. Gregory, I was going to tell you at dinner. Sophia has been a little rebellious lately. Nothing serious, just testing boundaries like any child. I'm strictly following the advice of that child psychologist, Dr. Claudia." Cecilia frowned. Sophia has never been seen by any Dr. Claudia. A tense silence settled in the office. Gregory looked from one to the other, visibly uncomfortable with the confrontation. "Lucy, is Sophia seeing a psychologist?" he finally asked. "Not personally yet, darling. I've been following Dr. Claudia's advice by phone. She's very in demand, a friend of Deborah's. We're waiting for an opening in her schedule." Lucy smiled sweetly. "I didn't want to worry you with details while you're focused on the Atlanta project." "Mr. Miller," Cecilia interrupted, "Dr. Anna Bennett, Sophia's pediatrician for years, is very concerned about her health. She's lost 6 pounds in the last month, shows signs of chronic anxiety and—" "Cecilia!" Lucy cut in. "Don't dramatize. Sophia had an upset stomach last week. That's why the temporary weight loss. She's already recovering." Gregory sighed, running a hand through his graying temples. "Look, you both care about Sophia, and I appreciate that. But I need to finish this proposal for Monday. Let's talk about this calmly over the weekend, all right?" "Sir, it's urgent," Cecilia began. "Over the weekend, Cecilia," Gregory repeated firmly. "Please excuse us now." Temporarily defeated, Cecilia left the office. As she closed the door, she could still hear Lucy commenting in a low voice, "She's getting obsessed with Sophia, Gregory. It worries me. Maybe we should consider a replacement." In the following days, the tension in the Miller penthouse became palpable. Cecilia noticed small acts of sabotage. Her keys mysteriously disappeared. Cleaning products were misplaced. Important messages were not passed on. On 2 occasions, she found her work diary accidentally wet, rendering her notes about Sophia illegible. In the kitchen, Teresa, the cook, discreetly approached Cecilia. "Mrs. Peterson has been asking the staff about you, wanting to know if you speak ill of her, if you behave strangely. She's trying to turn people against you." That same day, Gregory called Cecilia to his office. His expression was serious. "Cecilia, you've worked for our family for many years and have always been loyal. That's why I want to be frank. Lucy told me you've been making serious accusations against her behind her back." "Mr. Miller." "Let me finish, please. She's very upset. She says you accuse her of mistreating Sophia, of hiding food, of being cruel to the girl." "This is very serious, Cecilia." "Sir, I have evidence." "What evidence?" Gregory asked, crossing his arms. Cecilia hesitated. The lawyer had warned that the moment of revelation needed to be strategic. Showing only part of the evidence could give Lucy a chance to defend herself and destroy the rest of the proof. "I'm organizing a complete report, sir, with medical documentation, testimonies, records." "Records? You're spying on my wife in my own home?" Gregory's voice rose. "It's not spying, sir. It's protecting a vulnerable child." Gregory took a deep breath, visibly trying to control himself. "Cecilia, I value your years of service, but this is bordering on insubordination. Lucy suggested that perhaps you are emotionally compromised by your connection to Clara, that perhaps you don't accept a new maternal figure for Sophia. This has nothing to do with jealousy or Mrs. Clara, sir. It's about Sophia's well-being." "Well, Sophia is my daughter Cecilia, my responsibility, and Lucy is my wife, to whom I've entrusted part of that responsibility." Gregory softened his tone a little. "Look, I know you care, but I need you to respect the hierarchy of this house." Leaving the office, Cecilia found Lucy waiting in the hallway, a triumphant smile on her lips. "Have a good day, Cecilia," she hummed, entering the office and closing the door. That night, Cecilia found an envelope on her bed. Inside, a generous check and a letter of recommendation signed by Gregory. A handwritten note in Lucy's elegant handwriting read, "An opportunity to pursue new paths. We can resolve this discreetly without harming your reputation." Indignant, Cecilia tore up the note and kept the check to show the lawyer. further evidence of the attempt to silence her. The next morning, while preparing coffee, she overheard Lucy on the phone in the adjacent living room. "Yes, Deborah, I'm telling you, she's completely obsessed with Sophia. She has strange behaviors. Gregory is starting to notice too. No, I haven't mentioned that episode from years ago, when she worked for the Vasconcelos family. But if necessary..." There was a pause. Exactly. The single woman without children, living through someone else's daughter. There's something sick about that, don't you think? Cecilia felt her blood boil. Lucy was insinuating lies about her professional past, planting seeds of doubt about her emotional stability. The strategy was clear: discredit the messenger before the message was heard. Determined, Cecilia called Roger during her lunch break. "They're trying to get rid of me, Roger. I need to act soon, before it's too late for Sophia." "Stay calm and keep documenting everything," the lawyer advised. "We need a few more compelling pieces of evidence that cannot be explained away as misunderstandings or normal discipline, something that forces Gregory to see the truth." That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Cecilia received a call from the private school where Sophia studied. "Mrs. Hayes, this is Patricia Campbell, pedagogical coordinator at Arborwood Academy. I'm calling because Sophia did not attend classes today, and we haven't received any notification of absence." "What do you mean?" "Sophia left for school normally with Mrs. Peterson this morning. Well, she didn't arrive, and when we tried to call the emergency numbers, no one answered." Cecilia felt a chill. "I'll check and call you back immediately." Hanging up, Cecilia rushed to Sophia's room and found the girl's backpack still in the closet. Quickly, she called Lucy's cell phone, which went to voicemail. Then she called Gregory. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry to bother you, but the school just called. Sophia didn't attend today and her backpack is still here." "What?" "But Lucy told me she would take her personally today. I'll call her right now." 15 minutes later, Gregory called back, his voice tense. "Lucy says she decided to give Sophia a day off, that she seemed tired this morning. She's going to work on schoolwork with her at home today. I don't understand why she didn't inform the school." "Sir, that doesn't make sense. Sophia's backpack is still here, and Mrs. Peterson left with her dressed in her uniform. She explained that she changed Sophia's clothes afterwards. Look, Cecilia, I appreciate your concern, but Lucy assured me everything is fine. They're at the beach house in Key West enjoying the day. Sophia has been stressed with school anyway." "At the beach house?" "But, Cecilia, that's enough," Gregory interrupted, irritated. "This matter is closed." Hanging up, Cecilia knew something was very wrong. Sophia had never shown stress with school. On the contrary, it was her refuge. And Lucy had left with the girl in uniform, without a backpack, without prior notice. Determined, Cecilia called Raphael, her security technician nephew. "Raphael, I need immediate access to today's camera footage." "It's an emergency." The images revealed something disturbing. Lucy leaving with Sophia at 7:30 a.m., returning alone at 8:15 a.m., and leaving again at 10 a.m. There was no record of Sophia returning home. Cecilia felt panic grow. Where could the girl be? With whom? Why this secret movement? At 6 p.m., the private elevator announced someone's arrival. Lucy entered alone, carrying shopping bags. "Where's Sophia?" Cecilia asked immediately. "With Gregory," Lucy replied calmly. "He picked her up for dinner after we left Key West. Didn't he tell you?" Before Cecilia could answer, her cell phone rang. It was Gregory. "Cecilia, I'm still at the office. I'll be home late tonight. You don't need to wait to serve dinner." Cecilia's blood ran cold. "Sir, is Sophia with you?" A brief silence. "Sophia?" "No, she's home with Lucy. They returned from Key West late this afternoon." Cecilia looked at Lucy, who smiled calmly as she put away her purchases. "Mr. Miller, please come home now. It's urgent." 2 hours later, the Miller penthouse was in an uproar. Gregory arrived furious, demanding explanations. Lucy, in tears, claimed she had left Sophia with a tutor recommended by a friend, and that the girl should have been brought back by 5 p.m. But the tutor neither appeared nor answered calls. "I didn't want to alarm you, Gregory. I thought I could resolve this myself," Lucy sobbed. Cecilia, silent, watched the scene. The story didn't match the camera footage, nor the previous lie about Key West. Gregory, usually so composed, seemed on the verge of a nervous breakdown. "I'm calling the police," he announced. "No," Lucy exclaimed. "It will cause a scandal. Think of your reputation, the company." At that moment, the intercom rang. It was the doorman announcing the arrival of a woman who said she was bringing Sophia. Seconds later, the elevator opened, and an unknown woman entered with Sophia, who looked exhausted and scared. "Sorry for the delay," the woman said. "There was a misunderstanding about who would pick up the little one." Gregory rushed to hug his daughter, who was pale and had deep dark circles under her eyes. "Daddy," Sophia whispered, "I don't want to have classes with Aunt Margaret anymore. She left me alone all day." The woman, visibly uncomfortable, quickly said goodbye and left. Lucy approached, trying to hug Sophia, who visibly recoiled. "I was so worried, darling. You gave us such a scare." While Lucy and Gregory talked tensely in the living room, Cecilia took Sophia to bathe. In the bathroom, the girl finally spoke. "Aunt Lucy took me to a strange place today, Cece. It wasn't school or tutoring. It was an empty house with little furniture. She said I needed to learn to be alone, that spoiled children don't deserve constant attention." Cecilia felt a knot in her throat. "You were alone all day?" Sophia nodded. "There were only cookies and water, and it was locked. I was very scared, Cece." That night, while Sophia finally slept after the trauma, Cecilia made a decision. She would not wait another day to present the evidence to Gregory, even if it cost her job. Even if Lucy had already undermined her credibility. That child was in real danger, and time was running out. It was 5 in the morning when Gregory Miller, sitting on the main living room sofa of his penthouse, watched the images on his laptop with a devastated expression. The recordings from the house's own security system, which he barely checked due to his frantic routine, showed scenes he never imagined witnessing. Lucy, his elegant and seemingly devoted wife, screaming at Sophia in a fit of rage, confiscating the locket with Clara's photo, subjecting the girl to long periods without food and, worst of all, locking her in a dark closet for hours. The sleepless night had begun when, disturbed by the previous day's incident, Gregory decided to check the security camera recordings to understand what had really happened to Sophia. It was then that he stumbled upon months of systematic abuse against his daughter, occurring under his own roof while he immersed himself in work and blindly trusted Lucy. "My God," he murmured, running his trembling hands over his tired face. "How could I have been so blind?" The sound of soft footsteps made Gregory look up. Cecilia stood at the living room entrance, still in her work uniform despite the early hour. "You called for me, Mr. Miller?" He nodded, closing the laptop. "Yes, Cecilia. Please sit down." A heavy silence settled between them before Gregory finally spoke, his voice choked. "You were right about Lucy. All this time, you were trying to warn me, and I didn't want to see." Cecilia remained silent, allowing him to continue. "I reviewed the security camera recordings. I saw things—" He paused, swallowing hard. "I saw my daughter being locked in a dark closet. I saw Clara's locket being ripped from her. I saw Sophia begging for food while Lucy called her fat and lazy." Gregory's voice faltered. "How does a father allow this to happen to his own daughter?" "You didn't know," Cecilia replied softly. "I should have seen the signs. Sophia losing weight, withdrawn, scared. And you tried to tell me so many times." Gregory looked directly at her. "Tell me the complete truth now, Cecilia. Everything you know, everything you saw." Cecilia took a deep breath and recounted everything, the dietary restrictions imposed by Lucy, the constant insults, the disproportionate punishments, the forced isolation, the humiliations related to Clara's memory. She told him about the consultations with the pediatrician, the analysis of the drawings by the art teacher, the testimonies of other employees. "And I have more evidence," Cecilia concluded. "Discrete cameras I installed in the common areas, with legal authorization, just to document what was happening when you weren't present." Gregory raised his eyebrows, surprised. "You installed additional cameras in my house?" "Only in the common areas, sir. It was the only way to obtain concrete proof. I consulted a lawyer beforehand to ensure the legality of the procedure." Instead of getting angry, Gregory nodded slowly. "You went further than any employee would to protect my daughter. You risked your job, your reputation," as he paused. "Thank you, Cecilia." He stood up, walking to the window. The sky was beginning to lighten over Miami, the city awakening to another day. "What do I do now?" he asked, more to himself than to Cecilia. Protect Sophia, sir. That's what matters. Gregory turned. Yes, of course, but how? Lucy is my wife. She legally has authority over Sophia. If I simply accuse her, it will be my word against hers. She has connections, influential friends, and will surely try to discredit the evidence, claim video manipulation. The dossier I compiled is robust, sir. Besides the videos, we have medical reports, school reports, testimonies from reputable professionals. My lawyer says it's enough for an emergency protective order. Your lawyer, Gregory processed the information. You were preparing a legal case. To protect Sophia, yes. Not against you, but to give you the necessary tools to act when you were ready to see the truth. Gregory nodded, admiring the governess's determination. I want to meet this lawyer today, and I need you to show me all the evidence you've collected. For 3 hours, Cecilia presented the complete dossier. Videos, photos, documents, all meticulously organized and dated. Gregory watched and read each piece, his face alternating between shock, pain, and growing anger. She manipulated all of us, he concluded, after seeing the last piece of evidence. She presented herself as the devoted stepmother in public, while tormenting Sophia when they were alone. It's a common pattern in cases of psychological abuse, sir. The abuser maintains an impeccable public image. Gregory's phone vibrated. It was Lucy, who had left early for a supposed charity breakfast. He silenced the device. I need to get Sophia out of this house immediately before Lucy returns, he decided. Do you know of a safe place where we can stay temporarily? Cecilia hesitated briefly. My sister has a guest house in Asheville, North Carolina. Very discreet. She could reserve the most private cottage without official system records. Perfect. Please make the arrangements while I wake Sophia and pack the essentials. Gregory paused. Cecilia, I know I'm asking a lot, but would you come with us? Sophia trusts you, and I need someone who fully understands the situation. Of course, Mr. Miller, I'll pack a quick bag. While Cecilia organized the logistics, Gregory quietly entered Sophia's room. The girl slept restlessly, her brow furrowed even in sleep. Carefully, he sat on the edge of the bed and stroked her hair. Sophia, my princess, wake up, he called softly. The girl opened her eyes, startling slightly, a reflex that broke Gregory's heart. Daddy? Is it morning already? Yes, dear. Listen, we're going on a little trip today, just you, me, and Cecilia. A surprise. How about it? Sophia's eyes lit up. Aunt Lucy isn't coming. The hope in his daughter's question was like a stab to Gregory. No, princess. Just the three of us. Special father-daughter time. While Sophia got dressed excitedly, Gregory quickly went to his office and opened his private safe. There, among important documents and family jewels, he found what he was looking for, the locket with Clara's photo that Lucy had confiscated from Sophia. At 9:30 a.m., Gregory's car, driven by his trusted driver Anthony, left the building's garage heading towards the North Carolina mountains, carrying Gregory, Sophia, and Cecilia. In the penthouse, only an envelope remained on the dining table, addressed to Lucy, containing a succinct document, a notification of contested divorce and a temporary restraining order, preventing her from approaching Sophia. The cottage at the guest house in Asheville was exactly what they needed. Cozy, isolated among trees, away from curious eyes. Sophia, still not fully understanding what was happening, was enchanted by the space, especially a swing hanging from a nearby tree. While the girl explored the garden under Cecilia's watchful eye, Gregory made a series of important calls, first to his personal lawyer, then to Sophia's pediatrician, and finally to Roger Collins, the lawyer recommended by Cecilia. Late in the afternoon, gathered in the cottage living room, the three lawyers presented Gregory with the complete legal plan, file an emergency protective order on Sophia's behalf, followed by a divorce proceeding, with substantiated accusations of psychological abuse and neglect. In parallel, a criminal action against Lucy for child abuse. We need to be prepared for a difficult battle, warned Marina Kennedy, Gregory's family lawyer. Lucy has powerful connections. She frequents the same circles as many judges and prosecutors. She will try to disqualify the evidence and paint a picture of a conspiracy against her. Furthermore, Roger added, we must prepare for a media war. A high-profile separation like this, involving the CEO of Miller Developments, will certainly attract press attention. And Lucy will likely try to control the narrative. Gregory nodded, determined. I don't care about my public image or what the newspapers say. I only care about Sophia's safety. The next morning, while Sophia was still asleep, Gregory received a call from the security guard at his apartment building. Lucy had returned the previous night, found the letter and caused a scandal. She destroyed objects, yelled at employees, and worse, tried to force her way into Sophia's room, claiming the girl was being held against her will. Sir, she was completely out of control, the security guard reported. When she didn't find the girl, she called her lawyers alleging kidnapping. The police were even called, but when they saw the judicial notification signed by you explaining the situation, they left. Is she still in the apartment? No, sir. She left around 2 a.m., accompanied by a man who identified himself as her lawyer. Hanging up, Gregory found Sophia standing at the living room door, hugging a teddy bear. Daddy, aren't we going back home? She asked, her eyes wide. Gregory approached, kneeling to be at his daughter's eye level. Sophia, we need to talk about something important. He took a deep breath, searching for the right words. Do you remember how you felt when you were with Aunt Lucy? The punishments, the things she said, how she treated you when I wasn't around. Sophia lowered her eyes, clutching the bear to her chest. She said it was our secret, that if I told you wouldn't love me anymore. Sophia, look at me. Gregory waited until his daughter's eyes met his. That was never true. I will always love you no matter what. And what Aunt Lucy did to you was wrong. Very wrong. So, she won't live with us anymore? No, princess. And you'll never have to be alone with her again. I promise. Sophia was silent for a moment, processing the information. Can I go back to drawing with my colors? Aunt Lucy said colorful drawings are for babies. Gregory felt a knot in his throat. You can draw with all the colors you want, my love. At that moment, Cecilia entered the living room carrying a breakfast tray. Good morning, family. Who's hungry? Sophia's face lit up at the sight of pancakes with guava syrup. Can I really eat all of this, Cece? Of course you can, princess. As many as you want. As Sophia ate with renewed appetite, Gregory's cell phone rang again. It was Marina, his lawyer. Gregory, I have news. Lucy just gave an impromptu press conference at the door of your apartment. She's alleging that you and the governess kidnapped Sophia and that there's an improper relationship between you. What? Gregory felt his blood boil. That's absurd, I know. But the story is already on news portals. Miller Development's CEO flees with daughter and governess. Our love triangle shakes real estate empire, that kind of headline. She has no limits, Gregory murmured. We need to act fast, Marina continued. I've prepared an emergency petition for the judge, requesting a special hearing today. With the evidence we have, we can quickly reverse this narrative. Do whatever is necessary. I'll be in court whenever needed. Hanging up, Gregory briefly explained the situation to Cecilia, who listened, horrified. She's trying to deflect from the real problem, Gregory concluded. Instead of answering for the abuse accusations, she's creating a scandal to discredit me. It's a common tactic for abusers when they are exposed, Cecilia agreed. They try to turn victims into villains. Well, it won't work. Not this time. That same afternoon, while Sophia rested under the care of Cecilia's sister, Gregory and his lawyers met urgently with the family court judge in his chambers. They presented all the evidence, the camera videos, the medical reports proving weight loss and chronic stress, the art teacher's reports analyzing the disturbing drawings, the testimonies of the employees. The judge, Judge Paul Reynolds, watched everything with a grave expression. These videos are disturbing, he commented, after seeing the recording of Sophia locked in the closet. The child's biological mother passed away 2 years ago, Marina explained. Mrs. Lucy Peterson is the stepmother, married to Mr. Gregory Miller for only 8 months. The judge nodded, taking notes. As for the accusations made by Mrs. Peterson in the press about a supposed relationship between Mr. Miller and the governess, completely false, Your Honor, Gregory interrupted. Cecilia Hayes has worked for my family for 15 years. She was an essential person in Sophia's care after my first wife's passing. Her only crime was noticing the abuse before me and having the courage to document it to protect my daughter. After almost 2 hours of analysis, Judge Paul Reynolds made her decision. Given the evidence presented, I grant the protective order in favor of the minor Sophia Miller, prohibiting any contact by Mrs. Lucy Peterson with the child. I also order Mrs. Peterson's immediate removal from the couple's residence and the continuation of temporary custody with the father under the supervision of Child Protective Services. It was an important victory, but only the beginning of the battle. As they left the courthouse, Gregory and his team were met by a small crowd of reporters and photographers. Sensationalist headlines were already circulating, fueled by Lucy's contacts in the press. How do you respond to your wife's accusations? Is it true that you fired all the domestic staff who testified against you? Do you confirm the relationship with the governess? Gregory ignored all questions, quickly getting into the car with the lawyers. As they drove away, Marina showed him on her tablet Lucy's latest move, an exclusive interview for a popular TV program, where she appeared crying, claiming to be a victim of a conspiracy orchestrated by Cecilia, a woman obsessed with her husband and her stepdaughter. This will get worse before it gets better, Marina warned, but we have the truth on our side. And that's what matters, Gregory replied, determined. Now I need to get back to Sophia. I promised we'd be together for dinner. As the car headed towards Asheville, away from the media turmoil of Miami, Gregory took the locket with Clara's photo from his pocket. It was time to return it to its true owner, as the first step to heal the wounds Lucy had left on his daughter's soul. It was time to start over. The hearing at the Family and Juvenile Court was scheduled for 10 a.m. In the corridors of the Miami-Dade County Courthouse, Gregory Miller adjusted his tie, trying to maintain his composure. Beside him, Marina Kennedy and Roger Collins reviewed the final details of the presentation. Remember, Marina instructed, stay calm, no matter what Lucy's defense tries to provoke. Focus on the facts, the evidence, and always on Sophia's well-being. Across the corridor, Lucy had just arrived, impeccably dressed in a conservative navy blue suit, accompanied by Richard Baker, one of Miami's most expensive and influential lawyers. Her face, made up to hide any signs of stress, displayed an expression of wounded dignity calculated to generate sympathy. When her eyes met Gregory's, she quickly looked away, bringing a delicate handkerchief to her eyes in a theatrical gesture that did not go unnoticed by the journalists waiting outside, prevented from entering the courtroom. Don't let her provoke you, Roger murmured, noticing Gregory's tension. That's exactly what she wants. Inside the courtroom, Judge Helen Morrison, known for her rigorous protection of children's rights, was already waiting. At 58, with decades of experience in family cases, she was famous for not being impressed by social or economic status when the well-being of minors was at stake. Good morning, everyone, she formally greeted as the parties settled. We are here to analyze Case No. 2025-11842 regarding the protective order in favor of the minor Sophia Miller, age 7, against her stepmother, Mrs. Lucy Peterson Miller. The judge adjusted her glasses and continued. Before proceeding, I want to make it clear that this court has a single objective, to ensure the safety and well-being of the child involved. We are not here to judge public reputations or resolve matrimonial disputes, but exclusively to determine whether there has been a violation of the minor's rights and what measures are necessary for her protection. The first to present their case was Gregory's team. Marina methodically laid out the timeline of the abuse, from the first signs of Sophia's behavioral change to the most serious incidents documented on video. Your Honor, the evidence demonstrates a systematic pattern of psychological abuse, coercive control and neglect, Marina explained, as she presented the documents. We have here medical reports from Dr. Anna Bennett, Sophia's pediatrician since birth, documenting significant weight loss, signs of chronic stress, sleep disturbances, and anxiety. Next, reports from Professor Julian were shown, analyzing the progression of Sophia's drawings from colorful and expressive to somber and restrictive. Observe, Your Honor, how human figures that once occupied open spaces come to be represented in confined spaces, often alone and in dark colors. This pattern is recognized in specialized literature as indicative of emotional trauma in children. Richard Baker, Lucy's lawyer, interrupted. Your Honor, I want to note that this specialist is merely an art teacher with no qualifications in child psychology. His analysis has no scientific value. Mr. Julian Matthews holds a master's degree in art therapy from Florida State University and a doctorate in developmental psychology from the University of Miami, Marina countered. His reports are recognized in various courts across the country. The judge gestured for them to continue while taking notes. The most impactful moment came when the videos were presented. The images clearly showed Lucy yelling at Sophia for small mistakes, confiscating the locket with her mother's photo, restricting food, and most disturbingly, locking the child in the dark closet for hours. Lucy remained impassive, but her fingers nervously squeezed the edge of the table. Richard Baker immediately stood up. "Objection, Your Honor. These recordings were obtained without my client's knowledge or consent, violating her right to privacy. I request that they be excluded as illicit evidence." Roger was prepared. "Your Honor, the recordings of the common areas of the residence were made by the security system installed by Mr. Miller himself. As for the additional recordings, they were made exclusively in common areas, without invading private spaces, with the specific purpose of documenting potential crimes against a vulnerable child." The judge considered for a moment. "I note the defense's objection, but I maintain the admissibility of the recordings. The Supreme Court has already established jurisprudence, allowing recordings in common areas when there is reasonable suspicion of an ongoing crime, especially involving vulnerable individuals." When it was Lucy's turn to present her defense, Richard Baker tried to construct a completely different picture. "Your Honor, what we have here is an orchestrated campaign to destroy my client's reputation. Mrs. Lucy Peterson Miller has been a victim of hostility since she married Gregory Miller, especially from the governess Cecilia Hayes, who maintained an almost obsessive control over the family's routine. According to Baker, Lucy was merely trying to impose healthy boundaries on a child who had been excessively spoiled after the loss of her mother. As for the videos, even if admitted, they show only decontextualized fragments. What is presented as confinement was a moment of reflection, a modern educational technique. What is described as food deprivation was merely an attempt to establish regular meal times, following nutritional guidance. When Cecilia was called to testify, Baker tried to discredit her. "Mrs. Hayes, is it true that you were extremely close to Mr. Miller's first wife?" "Yes, Clara and I had a friendly relationship beyond the professional one," Cecilia replied calmly. "And wouldn't it be true that you deeply resented the arrival of a new maternal figure for Sophia? That you saw Lucy as an intruder who threatened your privileged role in the family?" Cecilia stood firm. "My only concern has always been Sophia's well-being. I don't care about titles or positions, only about her safety and happiness, even if that meant fabricating evidence against the stepmother." "Objection," Marina interjected. "Unsupported insinuation." "Sustained," the judge replied. "Mr. Baker, limit yourself to questioning without making unfounded accusations." When it was Gregory's turn to testify, his voice faltered as he described the moment he finally saw the security system recordings. "As a father, I failed to notice the signs. I was so immersed in work, so convinced of the perfect image Lucy built, that I didn't see my own daughter's suffering." He took a deep breath, regaining his composure. "But now that I know the truth, I am committed to doing everything to protect Sophia and help her overcome this trauma." Baker was relentless in his cross-examination. "Mr. Miller, isn't it true that you already had marital problems with Lucy before these alleged discoveries? That you were already considering divorce for other reasons, and found in these accusations a convenient way to get rid of your wife without the financial burdens of a normal separation?" "Absolutely not," Gregory replied, firm. "Our marriage seemed stable. I completely trusted Lucy until I saw with my own eyes how she treated my daughter in my absence." After 8 hours of hearing, including additional testimonies from the pediatrician, the art teacher, and Teresa the cook, the judge announced that she would retire to consider her decision. "Given the exceptional circumstances and the urgency of the case, I will return with my decision later today," she informed. During the recess, Gregory received a call from Anthony, who was with Sophia at the guest house in Asheville. "Everything all right there, Anthony?" "All good, boss. The little one spent the day drawing and playing with the guest house dogs. She's more relaxed, even smiled a few times." Gregory felt a momentary relief. Tell her Daddy sends a big kiss and that I'll be there for dinner. No matter the time. Hanging up, he noticed Lucy observing him from across the corridor, her calculating and cold gaze bearing no resemblance to the loving wife he thought he knew. Upon realizing she was being watched, she quickly resumed her fragile expression, especially when she noticed a photographer nearby. 2 hours later, everyone was called back to the courtroom. Judge Helen Morrison, with a grave expression, began reading her decision. After a thorough analysis of the evidence presented, including medical documentation, school reports, testimonies from qualified professionals, and audio-visual records, this court concludes that there was indeed systematic psychological abuse and neglect concerning the minor Sophia Miller, perpetrated by Mrs. Lucy Peterson Miller. A murmur ran through the room. Lucy paled, while Richard Baker furiously took notes. The evidence unequivocally demonstrates a pattern of controlling, punitive and emotionally abusive behavior that caused significant harm to the child's development and well-being. Particularly disturbing are the incidents of forced confinement, food deprivation, and psychological cruelty related to the memory of the deceased mother. The judge continued, therefore this court decrees, first, the maintenance of the protective order already granted as a preliminary injunction, now extended indefinitely, prohibiting any contact, direct or indirect, between Mrs. Lucy Peterson Miller and the minor Sophia Miller. Second, the granting of exclusive temporary custody to the father, Mr. Gregory Miller, under the supervision of Child Protective Services, with monthly reports on the minor's psychological follow-up. Third, the immediate order for Mrs. Lucy Peterson Miller to vacate the couple's residence within a maximum period of 24 hours, being allowed to remove only her personal belongings, accompanied by a court officer. Fourth, the forwarding of a full copy of the case files to the District Attorney's Office for evaluation of possible criminal and civil measures against Mrs. Peterson Miller for child abuse. Lucy abruptly stood up. This is absurd. A conspiracy. I will appeal to all instances. Mrs. Peterson, control yourself or you will be removed from the room, the judge warned. And I note that this behavior only corroborates the conclusions about your emotional instability. After the full reading of the decision, Gregory felt a mixture of relief and sadness. He had won the legal battle, but the emotional cost to Sophia was still incalculable. The months of abuse would leave scars that would require time, love, and professional support to heal. As they left the courthouse, they were again surrounded by journalists. This time, advised by Marina, Gregory decided to make a brief statement. Today, justice prevailed, not in my favor, but in favor of an innocent child who suffered in silence. As a father, I will forever carry the weight of not having realized what was happening sooner. But from now on, my absolute focus is to help my daughter recover and rebuild a safe and loving environment for her. Meanwhile, on the other side of the courthouse, Lucy also made her statement to the press. Carefully controlled tears streaming down her face. I am a victim of a terrible injustice, orchestrated by people who never accepted my presence in the Miller family. The alleged proof was manipulated and decontextualized. I love Sophia as if she were my own daughter, and I will fight to the end to prove my innocence and restore my reputation. Still in the courtroom, Judge Helen was talking privately with the Child Protective Services representative, Dr. Felicity Lane. Classic case of abuse by stepmothers in high-income blended families, the judge commented. Money and social status frequently shield these abusers. The saddest part, Dr. Helen, is that the child will probably spend years working through these emotional wounds in therapy, Felicity replied. But at least now she has a chance to recover in a protected environment. Monitor closely, the judge recommended. Cases like this rarely end with a simple judicial decision. Mrs. Peterson seems determined to fight, and people with her resources usually find ways to continue exerting influence and pressure. Indeed, as she left the courthouse, Lucy was already instructing Richard Baker on the next steps. Hire the best specialists to contest those ridiculous reports. Talk to your contacts in the press. I want a special report showing my side of the story. And thoroughly investigate that governess. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. Lucy, you need to understand that the decision was quite forceful, Baker warned. The video evidence is especially difficult to circumvent. I don't care. Do whatever it takes, no matter the cost. No one humiliates me like this and gets away with it. While Lucy planned her counteroffensive, Gregory returned to Asheville for a moment he had carefully planned. In the cozy cottage, he found Sophia on the porch, drawing with a new set of colored pencils Cecilia had bought. "Hi, Princess," he called softly, sitting beside her. "You're making a beautiful drawing." Sophia smiled shyly, showing the paper where a girl was holding hands with a tall man under a blue sky, the first colorful drawing she had made in months. "It's you and me, Daddy." Gregory felt a knot in his throat. "I have a present for you, my love." Carefully, he took the golden locket with Clara's photo from his pocket. Sophia's eyes widened. "My locket? You found it?" "Yes, Princess, and it belongs to you forever. No one will ever take it from you again, I promise." Sophia took the locket with trembling hands, opening it to see her mother's smiling photo. Silent tears began to stream down her face. "Is Mommy watching us from heaven, Daddy?" Gregory hugged his daughter. His own voice choked. "I'm sure she is, my love. And she's very proud of you for being so strong and brave." As father and daughter shared that moment of healing, Cecilia watched discreetly from the doorway, moved. The legal battle might have been won, but the real challenge was just beginning. Rebuilding Sophia's trust in the adult world and helping her process the trauma of the past few months. In Miami, the story began to take on new contours in the media. What had initially been reported as a scandalous love triangle involving a powerful businessman, his young wife, and the governess, now gained more complex narratives as details of the court decision leaked. "Justice protects child from abuse in luxury mansion," screamed the headline of the country's main online newspaper, accompanied by a file photo showing Lucy at a charity event for underprivileged children. The irony not lost on readers. Investigative reporters, scenting a bigger story, began to dig deeper. Some sought out former employees of the Miller household. Others looked for information about Lucy's past before her marriage to Gregory. In her penthouse apartment on Ocean Drive, Lucy watched the downfall of her public image with growing fury. Her phone, once inundated with invitations to exclusive events, now remained eerily silent. Friends who once vied for her company now didn't answer her calls. "They'll pay for this," she muttered to herself as she poured a glass of wine. "All of them, especially that meddling governess and that ungrateful brat." But while Lucy planned revenge, in Asheville, something extraordinary was happening. Sophia slept peacefully for the first time in months, her mother's locket safe in her hand, with no nightmares to disturb her sleep. 6 months had passed since the hearing that had forever changed the course of the Miller family. The spacious apartment in Coconut Grove, where Gregory and Sophia moved after leaving the penthouse in Northwood, awoke bathed in the golden light of the Miami sun that Saturday morning. In the spacious and welcoming kitchen, very different from the impeccable and cold kitchen of the old residence, Gregory tried without much success to prepare pancakes. "Daddy, I think this one got too black," Sophia, now almost 8, commented, observing the charred attempt in the frying pan. "Yeah, I guess so," Gregory agreed, laughing at his own culinary ineptitude. "Let's call it a toasted pancake, how about that?" Sophia laughed, a crystal-clear sound that had become more frequent in recent months. Wearing colorful star-patterned pajamas, she looked like a different child from the scared and silent girl she once was. She had regained the lost weight. Her brown hair had regained its shine, and her eyes, so similar to Clara's, had reacquired the characteristic vibrancy of childhood. Cecilia entered the kitchen, observing the scene with a smile. "Need help, Mr. Miller?" "Please," he pleaded playfully, "before I set the apartment on fire trying to make my daughter's breakfast." With skill born of experience, Cecilia took charge, salvaging what she could of Gregory's attempt and quickly preparing a fresh batch of perfect pancakes. The dynamic between the three had transformed. Although Cecilia continued as governess, her relationship with Gregory and Sophia was now closer to a family friendship. She didn't live in the apartment, she had her own place in Brickell, but remained a constant and stabilizing presence in Sophia's life. "Remember what day it is today, Sophia?" Gregory asked as they enjoyed breakfast. The girl nodded, a shy smile on her face. "My art exhibition day. Exactly." The first exhibition of artist Sophia Miller. In recent months, encouraged by therapist Dr. Camilla Wilson, Sophia had delved into art as a form of expression and healing. What began as simple, colorful drawings evolved into increasingly elaborate paintings, in which she processed her emotions and experiences. Julian, her art teacher, impressed with her progress, suggested a small exhibition at the community gallery where he also taught underprivileged children. And after the exhibition, "We have the picnic at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden," Cecilia reminded them. "With chocolate ice cream," Gregory added, winking at his daughter. Life had reorganized around a new routine, healthier and centered on Sophia's well-being. Gregory had drastically reduced his workload, delegating more responsibilities to the directors of Miller Developments. He had returned to studying, enrolling in a sustainable family business management course. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he left the office early to accompany Sophia to therapy sessions. On weekends, he dedicated himself exclusively to his daughter. In parallel, he had created a foundation in Clara's memory, the Clara Miller Institute for Child Protection, which funded projects for child abuse, prevention and training professionals for early identification of signs of mistreatment. "I'm going to get ready for the exhibition," Sophia announced, finishing her orange juice. When the girl left, Gregory sighed, a momentary shadow passing over his face. "Any problem, Mr. Miller?" Cecilia asked. "I received a court notification last night. Lucy is escalating legal actions, requesting a review of the protective order, claiming she was unjustly deprived of her family life." Cecilia shook her head, indignant. "After everything she did?" "Marina says we have nothing to worry about. The evidence is solid, and Sophia's follow-up reports clearly show how she is progressing away from Lucy's influence." Gregory ran a hand through his hair, now with more grey strands. "But it's draining, you know. Every 2 weeks there's a new action, a new attempt. It's the typical pattern of the abuser, sir, trying to maintain control through legal mechanisms when direct mechanisms are blocked." "Yes, Dr. Camilla explained that. It's called judicial proxy abuse, if I'm not mistaken." Gregory took a sip of coffee. "But today we're not going to think about that. Today is a day of celebration." The community gallery downtown Miami was decorated with colorful balloons. A banner at the entrance announced, "Children's Exhibition, Colors of the Soul, artists aged 7 to 12. In the space dedicated to Sophia, 10 paintings were arranged in chronological sequence, telling a powerful visual story. The first ones, made shortly after Lucy's removal, were predominantly dark, with isolated figures and confined spaces, reflections of recent trauma. Gradually colors began to appear, timid at first, then increasingly vibrant. The last painting in the series showed a girl holding hands with a tall man, a gray-haired woman beside them, all under a starry sky in broad daylight. Julian, the art teacher, approached Gregory while Sophia received compliments from other visitors. "Her progress is extraordinary," he commented. "I rarely see children process traumatic experiences through art with such clarity and noticeable evolution." "Art saved my daughter," Gregory replied, moved. "Along with therapy, of course, and a lot of love. But it was through her drawings that she managed to express what she couldn't say with words." "The last painting is particularly significant," Julian observed. "The stars in the daytime sky. In art therapy, we interpret that as the constant presence of loved ones who have passed away, even when they cannot be seen." Gregory looked at Sophia, who proudly displayed her paintings to Dr. Anna Bennett, her pediatrician who had made a point of attending. The locket with Clara's photo shone on her neck. "She talks to her mother every night," Gregory said. "Tells her about her day, her fears, her joys. Says that even though she can't see or hear, she knows her mother is listening." Across the gallery, Cecilia chatted with Roger Collins, the lawyer who had helped her compile the dossier against Lucy. "How are things at the new house?" Roger asked. "Completely different," Cecilia replied. "Mr. Miller is unrecognizable in the best possible way. He prioritizes Sophia above all else, actively participates in her routine. He's even learning to cook. And you? How has this transition been for you? Honestly? The best decision I made was to follow my instincts and protect that child, no matter the cost." Cecilia smiled, watching Sophia from a distance. "Seeing her transformation is the greatest reward I could have." The exhibition was a success, Several visitors were moved by the story told through Sophia's paintings, even without knowing all the details behind them. Some parents asked for Julian's contact to enroll their children in art therapy classes. After the exhibition, as planned, Gregory, Sophia, and Cecilia went for a picnic at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden. Under the shade of a huge mango tree, they spread a checkered blanket and arranged the basket that Teresa, the cook who had remained with the family after the move, had lovingly prepared: sandwiches, fruits, natural juices, and, of course, Sophia's favorite sweets. "Daddy," Sophia called. As she nibbled on a sandwich, "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Princess, anything." "Is Aunt Lucy ever coming back?" Gregory's heart ached. Although Sophia was progressing wonderfully, the fear of Lucy still appeared occasionally, especially in her dreams. "No, my love," he replied firmly. "She's not coming back. The judge made it very clear that she cannot approach you, and I would never allow anyone to hurt you again." Sophia nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Daddy, Dr. Camilla says I don't need to forgive Aunt Lucy to move on, that it's okay to be angry about what she did." "Dr. Camilla is right," Gregory agreed, impressed by his daughter's maturity. "And how do you feel about that?" "Sometimes I get sad thinking why she didn't like me." But Dr. Camilla explained that the problem was hers, not mine. Sophia paused. "I don't want to forgive her now, but I also don't want to keep thinking about her forever." Cecilia, who listened to the conversation in silence, felt her eyes well up. The wisdom of that 8-year-old child who had gone through so much suffering was moving. "You're amazing, you know," Gregory said, hugging his daughter. "And you have every right to feel what you're feeling, for as long as it takes." As they finished the picnic, Sophia noticed a blue butterfly perched on a nearby flower. With delicate movements, she approached to observe it better. "Look, Daddy, how beautiful. It looks magical." The simplicity of that moment, a child enchanted by a butterfly on a sunny day, contained all the meaning of the journey they had taken. From the darkness of the closet where Sophia had been confined to the freedom of that open garden. From constant fear to the ability to marvel again at the small beauties of the world. That night, back at the apartment in Coconut Grove, Gregory received a call from Marina, his lawyer. "I have news," she announced. "Judge Helen Morrison summarily dismissed Lucy's petition for review of the protective order. Furthermore, the district attorney's office has formally filed criminal charges against her for child abuse of a vulnerable minor." "Does that mean we'll have a criminal trial?" "Exactly. And with the evidence we have, a conviction is quite likely. It won't result in actual imprisonment due to her lack of prior convictions, but it will set an important precedent. People in privileged positions need to understand that they are not above the law when it comes to child protection." After hanging up, Gregory went to Sophia's room for their usual nightly ritual. The girl was already in bed, wearing teddy bear pajamas, Clara's locket carefully placed on the bedside table. "Ready for a story?" Gregory asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Today I want to tell one," Sophia replied, surprising him. "Really? Well then, I'm all ears." Sophia settled into bed, adopting a storyteller's posture. Once upon a time, there was a princess who lived in a very tall castle. She had a very good king-father, but he was always very busy ruling the kingdom. One day, a wicked queen arrived at the castle, who pretended to be good when the king was around, but was terrible when they were alone. Gregory listened, realizing that Sophia was processing her own experience through the narrative. The princess became very sad and scared, until a good fairy who worked in the castle noticed what was happening. The fairy gathered proof of the queen's wickedness and showed it to the king, who finally saw the truth. He expelled the wicked queen from the castle forever and promised he would never let anyone hurt the princess again. "And what happened next?" Gregory asked, moved. "They moved to a smaller castle, but a much happier one. The king stopped working so much and started spending more time with the princess. The good fairy kept visiting often, and they formed a different but very nice family." Sophia paused dramatically before concluding, "And the princess discovered that she could be happy again, even after bad things happened." "The end? That's the best story I've ever heard," Gregory said, kissing his daughter's forehead. "And you know why?" "Because it's true." "Yes," Sophia agreed, yawning, "and the best stories are the true ones." As Sophia fell asleep, Gregory remained by her side, reflecting on the extraordinary journey they had traveled. From the abuse carefully masked under the veneer of wealth to the slow and steady healing through love, art, and specialized support. In the living room, Cecilia finished organizing the materials for the next day. Sophia would have swimming lessons in the morning when Gregory returned. "Did she fall asleep?" he asked. "Like an angel. And she told me a story beforehand. About a princess, a busy king, a wicked queen, and a good fairy." Cecilia smiled, immediately understanding the analogy. Children have a remarkable way of processing difficult experiences. "Sophia called you the good fairy in the story," Gregory revealed. "And she was absolutely right. You were the good fairy who saved our family, Cecilia." "I just did what any decent person would do." "No, you did much more. You risked everything to protect a child who wasn't even your direct responsibility." "Sophia will always be my responsibility," Cecilia stated simply, just as she would be for any adult who witnessed a child's suffering. The next morning, breakfast at the Miller house was an impromptu celebration. Teresa, the cook, had prepared a surprise cake to celebrate the success of Sophia's exhibition. Anthony, the driver who had remained with the family, brought a small gift, a set of professional paintbrushes for the artist of the house. As everyone chatted animatedly around the table, Gregory's cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Mr. Miller? This is Deborah Vance from Focus Social magazine." The journalist's voice was professional but warm. "We are preparing a special report on invisible domestic violence in high-end homes and would like to talk about your experience and the work of the Clara Miller Foundation." Gregory paused, considering. Until then, he had avoided media exposure, protecting Sophia's privacy. But now, with the girl more stable and the foundation's work growing, perhaps it was time to use his experience to help other families. "We can talk, yes," he finally replied, "but with some conditions to protect my daughter." After hanging up, he explained the situation to Cecilia and Teresa. "Do you think it's a good idea, sir?" Teresa asked, always protective. "If we can help other children and families recognize the signs early." "Yes, I think it's worth it," Gregory reflected. "Abuse thrives in silence. Perhaps sharing our story with due care can break that silence for others." That sunny afternoon, while Sophia played in the playground under Cecilia's watchful eye, Gregory walked along the South Beach boardwalk, reflecting on the extraordinary events of the past few months. The pain, the shock, the guilt, the anger, all emotions he had processed intensely in his own therapy sessions. Now, although the scars remained, there was also a renewed purpose. His phone vibrated with a message from Cecilia, a photo of Sophia on the swing, smiling openly, Clara's locket shining in the sun. Below, a simple text, "Moments like these make it all worthwhile." Gregory smiled, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. The road ahead would still have challenges: the criminal proceedings against Lucy, Sophia's occasional nightmares, his own process of self-forgiveness, but now they walked together, strengthened by the truth and the love that had survived the shadows. A week later, a bright morning sealed the transformation. In the cozy kitchen of the apartment in Coconut Grove, Sophia, Gregory, and Cecilia prepared a special breakfast together. There was flour everywhere, laughter filling the air, small culinary mishaps that turned into reasons for more joy. On the living room table, a new drawing by Sophia awaited framing. 5 figures holding hands under a blue sky full of stars in broad daylight. The caption, written in the careful hand of an 8-year-old, simply read, "My family, the one I can see and the one that is always with me." There was no perfection. Occasional nightmares still appeared. Adult guilt still required constant work. Legal proceedings continued their course, but now there was routine, truth, and a solid network of protection built with love, responsible vigilance, and daily commitment. The Miller family's journey proved that, even in the most sophisticated environments, where appearances often mask painful realities, the combination of genuine attention, careful documentation, and courage to face difficult truths can break cycles of abuse and restore to childhood what is rightfully theirs: security, a voice, and the ability to dream again. Clara's locket, once a symbol of loss and then a weapon of psychological torture, had reclaimed its original purpose, a bond of love that neither time, nor distance, nor human malice could break. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Clara's locket has touched your hearts. This narrative of protection, courage, and unconditional love reminds us of the importance of being attentive to the silent signs of suffering around us, especially when it comes to children. To follow more emotional stories like this, we have prepared a special playlist with equally captivating narratives. Find it here by clicking on your left. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Every day we bring new stories that explore the complexity of life and human relationships. We want to know what you thought of this story in the comments. Does your family have lockets or special objects that carry important memories? Share with us! Until the next story, and remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is to perceive someone's silent suffering and have the courage to act.